Hello, everyone. This is another Black Conservative. I am Ryan Clifton Boland. Thank you all for joining me. Well, it's no shock that the parents of this country who decide to speak out and speak up against critical race theory being taught in the schools and transgender theories being taught in the schools to their children are being attacked. There is no doubt about that. I believe that with all my heart. I have no question. I'm not questioning it in any other way. I see that happening. But what I find shocking is that the school board supposedly collaborated with the Biden administration in a letter that requested that the FBI, I believe, investigate these parents as domestic terrorists. Domestic terrorists. Oh, yeah, you heard it right. Domestic terrorists. So look, we're going to get into this article. I'm going to read a portion of this article, just a small portion of this article, because I want to get right into what I believe that this really is. And I think I mentioned this to some extent in some videos I made in the past about who are actually terrorists in our country and who are not actually terrorists. So let's get into this. The title of this article is National School Boards Association Admits to Colluding with Biden Administration on Domestic Terrorism Letter. An article says the National School Boards Association, NSBA, admitted Friday to colluding with senior White House officials to develop a letter asking the federal government to investigate concerned parents speaking at school board meetings as domestic terrorists. And before I read any further, according to the first paragraph of this article, where it states that this National School Boards Association admitted Friday to colluding with senior White House officials, I can't help but think that if they admitted this, then it seems to indicate to me that they've been found out to be fraudulent. When you get exposed by these parents and when you get exposed by alternative media sources, eventually you're going to eventually admit that you was wrong, that you was a fraud, and that you was a liar. Isn't but so far you can go with a lie before you start saying, okay, I lied. So let's go on. The admission comes after an internal review, which was prompted by significant backlash to the letter that led Attorney General Merrick Garland to sic the FBI on parents and use, quote, counter-terrorist tools to investigate them. Parents speaking at school board meetings across the country were primarily outraged by the revelations that their children were being indoctrinated with critical race and queer theories, as well as the draconian coronavirus policies that mask children and shut down schools, leading to significant learning loss and other developmental stunting. And look, this is no shock to me. As I said before, this is no shock. And really, I'm going to end that article right there. I'm going to leave a link to this article in the description box below, and you can read the entire article on your own free time. But to briefly say, this is no shock to me about what the school board is doing. And in fact, the article goes on to explain in greater detail how the Biden administration and those who are associated with the Biden administration knew exactly what they were doing. And I believe that this was a fear tactic to shut the mouths of the parents who merely were disagreeing with the type of ideologies and teachings that was being pushed on their children. These parents have a constitutional right to know what the teachers are teaching their children. It is a lie that the children, when the children go to the school, the children belong to the teachers. No, they do not belong to the teachers. The teacher's job is to teach the children, not push ideologies and teachings on them that they don't want. I find it interesting that decades ago, the schools and the people in power removed prayer out of the schools. Removed prayer. Yes, people did pray. I heard somebody say, well, they didn't pray in school. Yes, they did pray in school. The teachers would have prayer before they had class. Read your history. They did pray in school, and they did have Bible. They did read scripture. Now, it may not have been in every one of the schools throughout the country, but in certain schools, they did read opening scriptures, and they did have prayer. All of those things were removed out of the schools. Okay. I find it interesting that they removed those things out of the school, which did no damage to any of the children, and then replace it with stuff like critical race theory and not just critical race theory, but also the transgenderism and the pushing of all this sexually explicit material. They replace it with stuff that is purely corruptive in the minds of a lot of parents. And the parents have a right to say, we don't agree with what you're teaching our children. If you want to teach that stuff to your children, teach it to your children, but don't teach it to our children. Your job is to teach math and history and other subjects. I can't help but wonder, what is the major of any of these teachers in the schools? If you're a math teacher and that's what your specialty is, don't you think you should be teaching math and not critical race theory? Don't you think you should be teaching math or social studies or whatever, or history or whatever, and not transgenderism and how to accept transgenders? Don't you think you should be teaching things that you major in, that are supposed to be your specialty? Why are you teaching this trash to the children? And that's why parents are getting involved. But according to this letter, I think that this letter was an attempt to scare the parents into submission and say, okay, the FBI is on you now. They got you now as a terrorist now. And I mentioned this in the previous video. We have what I believe to be actual terrorists in the country: Black Lives Matter and Antifa. And I believe that President Trump deemed Black Lives Matter and Antifa as terrorist groups. I don't think the far left Democrats did, but I believe, and correct me in the comment box below, but I believe he did during his tenure. He deemed Black Lives Matter and Antifa as terrorist groups. But whatever the case may be, I personally believe they're terrorist groups. They've caused irreversible damage to our country and to human lives. No one is doing anything about it. As I mentioned in the previous video, Bill Ayers, one of the founders of the Weather Underground from the 1960s, who literally took part in bombing important areas and buildings. I think he bombed, I forget the two buildings that were supposedly bombed by members of his group, the Weather Underground, a radical far left communist group that wants to destroy America and rebuild it again into a communist country. This man right now, and unless he has passed on and died, and I don't know about it, is right now a professor in one of our top universities, and I believe it's Columbia University. So we have actual terrorists in our country who have actually committed acts of terrorism, but yet you have the school board creating a letter, writing it to the Biden administration to deem these individuals, to get the FBI on these parents, to deem them as domestic terrorists. What evidence do you have whatsoever that would even remotely suggest that these parents who are disagreeing with what these teachers are teaching their children as domestic terrorists? None whatsoever, other than to say that these parents are stopping the agenda of the radical far left in transforming and corrupting our youth. That's the only other alternative, and that's the alternative that I believe that they're pushing. Why do you think they're pushing all this stuff and being so persistent? Why? Think about it. What's more important for these children to learn? Math, history, and science, or transgenderism and critical race theory? This is what's going on in our schools. But I deem and I believe that that there is a wave going on. And I'm not going to say the red wave neither. I'll put it to you like this. I'm not going to say the red wave or the blue wave or any of that. I'm going to say a patriot wave, or a wave of people who love this country and love their freedoms. That could be from anyone, whether you on the right or whether you on the left. I know some American loving Democrats that love their country. They're in the military. And you're not going to be in the military all your life and hate the country. You're not going to be. Okay? So it don't matter what side you're on in terms of being the left or the right. If you're on the side of common sense and if you're on the side of logic, you're on the right side. And that's on both the left and the right. Even though I am a conservative, I respect Democrats who love the country. I might not vote for their party, But I respect the people, the regular 9-to-5ers who love the country and are not like these radical crazies that we have out here. So I just wanted to say that. What do you guys think about this? Leave your comments in the comment section below. If you like this video, press the like button, share this video, and subscribe. God bless you all, and see you again on another Black Conservative with Ryan Bowling.